boy, stop being lazy. Yeah, and I became creative. And I learned how to create it. And now that pride's for me. So come see. Oh, come eat.
Snow in Atlanta, Jimmy Lake fired, Bucks losing the playoffs, and we got another episode of the Silver Liner with you. How you doing, fellas? I am your host, Sterlier than last time. This is your co-host, El Camino. What's going on with you, Cam?
Feeling pretty good, man. Had a little snow day off. Feel good. Unplanned 3-day weekend, but I was happy for it. Got to watch some
Hey,
good
man.
football.
hmm
Hey, now it's the off season, man. Now we get to talk about these Falcons and the little moves we about to make.
Yep. And look, man, that's the best part. You know, that's the look, a little slow day, but a snow day that you was prepared for. You know, I know some people they ain't prepared for it properly. I was stuck at home, ain't had no TP, ain't had no food, roads slicked everywhere. And you was like, man, this shit sucks, man. What was I thinking? No, I was prepared, man. I had some ribs cooked up, you know what I'm saying? Had everything, had some drink, had everything I needed at the house to be comfortable during that time. And then Saturday pulled up. We got the news that Jimmy Lake got his pink slip, got his walking papers, got shown the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, cool,
It's a good
cool.
day. It's a
and
good day.
then Sunday rolled around. And Sunday we was watching, you know, I had to put on the Bucks and Commanders. And honestly, I was like, I know the Bucks ain't winning the championship, but I still just wanted to make sure I was watching when they lost in the playoffs. and You know, nothing like seeing that surrender cobra come up at the end when everybody see the field goal get kicked and then it doinks in because everybody hear that doink and they think it's not going in. And then it went through and it was like, everybody doing that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that part,
Hey,
that part.
welcome to Cabo.
Welcome. We kept the spot warm for you. All right, cool. So, um, Falcons decided to go ahead, give Jimmy his walking papers. You know, I'm glad they did the proper evaluation, I guess, but they came to the right conclusion. You know, I wanted to, you know, give Jimmy some grace, but if we're being real, it wasn't working out. I don't think anybody had very much to say against that. It wasn't working out. There were times where it just seemed like we weren't learning from our mistakes. Like you know, every time we come out, we play in the soft defense. Teams whip us up on the soft defense. We play tight in the second half. We play better in the second half. And then we start the next game with the same problem, playing too loose a defense and doing that shit every week. Consistent problem there. Unable to create consistent pressure. And then when we change our scheme, we getting pressure. So that means that was an option available. And more important too, to me, that you know, I had heard more words about was that Raheem apparently he took over more of the defensive game plan, more of the play calling type deals. I don't know if he took over play calling, but I know he had a bigger hand in the game planning after the bye, and then the defense get better. So I thought that was a huge nod to one of your points that I felt like was one of your most uncomfortable feelings you had about Raheem's hires for coordinators, which are that they both rookies. And, you know, obviously having two rookie coordinators, that means that your coach got to step in more often. That's pulling him away from his duties as a head coach. I think if this was beyond belief, fact, or fiction, that one would be a fact. You know what I'm
Hey,
saying?
that's to have a take that turns into wine.
I sure did, brother. It sure did. Cause look, man, that just brings so much context to what we were seeing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you know, like it does get annoying seeing that, you know, we doing this thing that's clearly not working, then we do this thing that obviously works, and then you go back to doing the thing that didn't work the week before, right? So we saw a lot of instances of that, and I guess they thought it was time to move on. um Anything you want to add to that and say to that, Cam?
Yeah. As a defense, we at times we just look poorly coached.
Yep.
disorganized, made bad plays, bad decisions, costly time penalties. We did turn it around in the second half, but even still, we when we needed to win the most, we fell back to our old ways. So yeah, I completely agree, man. It was time for him to go. But I guess that leads us to our next segment of who's going to be our next DC.
Yeah. So the Falcons conducted 2 interviews today. So we conducted this interview on the 14th of January 2025. That's Tuesday. And as of today, they completed interviews with uh, current Michigan defensive coordinator and former longtime NFL defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, and former defensive coordinator for the Bengals, Lou Anarumo. It's a fun name to say right there, Anarumo. But yeah, so those are guys that they've already looked at. Obviously, it's still early in the process, and I think that there's obviously right now they can't interview coaches that are currently in the playoffs. So this is only the beginning bits of the process, unless somebody with great pedigree and great background just blows them away, and they say, hey, we want to make a hire right now. But yeah. So what do you think of those guys? Or do you have any background you want to add? Anything about those guys that you have any thoughts about them? Because I got a couple, but I'm interested to hear what you're thinking about that.
I'm not completely familiar with Martindale, but I do know how do you pronounce the name again? Anarumo?
Anarumo.
Anarumo. Okay. He was the DC that got Cincinnati to that Super Bowl. And then of course they fell down to earth. They regressed a little bit. One, due to losing players, and two, salary cap getting eaten up by Joe. So yeah, I get that. You unable to afford some of the like premium players you need. As a defense, they had a horrible year this year. I think they were like one of the worst defenses in the league.
Definitely
They
in the
really
first
were.
half. They were historically bad in the first half.
They turned it around, but they were terrible, man.
Hmm.
Sorry about that. But yeah. So I'm not sure if he's like the best guy to go to, considering the season he's had. Granted, a fresh start could help. Uh we'll see, man. We'll see. I know we're not done looking at other candidates. A candidate I'm really looking forward to, somebody I really would hope we get. Highly doubt, but like Robert Salah, he's probably going back to San Fran. Rightfully so, he had his best years there. He's a long shot, but I would love if we could get an interview with him. Um, is there any? How do you feel about him? Is there any other guys that you would like us to interview? I know we can't really do everybody who we'd want to just yet, but is there anybody that you had in mind?
So just to speak about Wink and Lou. So with Wink, I am a little familiar with him. I know that he was with Jim Harbaugh with Michigan, so a lot of Michigan's best defenses were Wink Martindale's defense, right? But also he was, I can't remember what years it was, but he was the defensive coordinator for Baltimore Ravens, and he was pretty decent in those times. So I think he might have had a year where he fell off and it looked kind of rough, but ultimately he was pretty effective with Baltimore. Now the thing that I am noticing about the guys that they looked at so far is that they have a bit of a commitment to guys who run primarily a 3-4 defense, or 3-man 3-4 front defense. So maybe that'll change who they look at. Maybe it won't. I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see, right? But with Lou, so I always have a little bit of concern when a guy plays bad, when the talent's bad, right? Not because that's something bad about him, right? It's just sometimes you gotta ask yourself, right? Right? You gotta not be the overly positive Falcon fan, right? You can't look at everybody on your team and say, "Oh, we got all these talented guys," right? We say, all right, we look at the coordinator and we say, what did you do when you had shit to work with? Did you still make chicken salad? Or was your pile of chicken shit still a pile of chicken shit? Right? And he had a chicken shit roster to work with. And for quite a large portion of the season, had a bit of a chicken shit defense out there. It was pretty bad. And the only reason I'm like that is because, if we hire him, are we affording the players to him for him to be an effective and good coordinator? Or are we providing him chicken shit? Now, there's yet to be free agency. There's yet to be the draft. We could trade. So there's a lot of things that could change. But, when I look at our current roster, I'm like, all right, well, what we really bringing to the table? All right. Let's say who are real dogs, our real toys for him to play with, right? You got AJ Terrell. You got Jesse Bates, a guy he is familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You got Caden Ellis.
Yep.
Fantastic one right there. And those are the only real, like, all right, these are some guys.
I was gonna say the same thing, man. I was gonna say maybe you could say
maybe Epic Katie a
I was
little
gonna maybe
bit.
Epic Katie a little bit, yep.
Maybe Grady, but with Grady, with the contract and all, I don't know if Grady gonna be here when he's here.
That's
so
true.
we might, the other ones I named at least under contract for one more year. AJ got way more than one more year. But Jesse got 2 years, and Caden on his last year of his deal. You know what I'm saying? So those 3 guys that's under contract, but Evan Katie, he kind of put it together. Maybe he could help Evan Katie put it together in game 1, in week 1,
Mm-hmm.
instead of all the way to fuck after week 11. Like this shouldn't happen like 2 years in a row. So that's the kind of things that when we talk about defensive coordinators, I think. Matter of fact, let me ask now because I got a couple names that I'm interested in that I do want to go over as well. But right before I do that, I want to know: is there any particular things you looking for in the next defensive coordinator the Falcons hire?
Someone with a track history of turning bad defense is good.
Okay.
Someone who knows how to improve. Someone who knows how to implement a scheme that is known that consistently works. I'm not saying that DC has to always have a good season or his defense has to be top 10 every year, but someone who shows an aptitude for the skill, man. Like you can tell, like there are good coordinators and there are bad ones, man. Look at Philly, man. I'm not talking about their defense, but you can tell a good coach. Philly always has a good offensive line because they have a good offensive line coach.
They do also have good players too.
Somebody who knows how to make players better, man. Someone who has a real defensive mind. Someone who makes a regular Joe into a potential Pro Bowl player, man. Someone who's very good at talent development. That's the big thing about the NFL is you have to know how to develop your talent. Sometimes it's also not where you're drafted; it's how you're developed. And in some places don't develop talent as well as others. So that's something I'd like to see. Someone with a track record of implementing a good scheme, having a top 10 defense, and also knowing how to develop players as well. That's going to be hard to find, but that's honestly what I'm looking for. You know who I want? The DC from Detroit. But we're not going to
yeah. He's not a lateral move. I can't see.
He's looking for head coaching jobs, and rightfully so. He's earned that right. But I want something like that. Someone who that's kind of like the blueprint right there, man. How about you, man? What you feeling on?
So I think I might be saying the same thing, but rephrased. So the way I phrased it in my head, I said, I need a coach that's a master of his craft before he running the defense, right? I feel like I've seen a number of defensive coaches or defensive coordinators come through this building that, they were a secondary coach or some shit, or a linebacker coach, or they were a D-line coach, and then they become our D coordinator. And when you look back at their history, You like, damn, you was a secondary coach? You didn't really develop anybody in the secondary. You didn't really your group really wasn't amazing. You just kind of happened into a defensive coordinator role. The one guy I can think of most recently anyway that had a strong, successful background in their position that they coached before moving to defensive coordinator was Ryan Nielsen, and it showed up immediately, right? Ryan Nielsen was a guy who was a D-line coach, and then when he came to Atlanta, we immediately got 46 because the one thing he could do, right? As a former D-line coach, is coach guys up to be able to get sacks. We also had a top 5 rush defense, right? One thing as a D-line coach you should be able to do is to coach your D-linemen to stop the run. Another thing, too, was we were a good red zone defense. So my thing was, all right, that's a guy who he's shown that he has a strong history of bringing in guys, and like you said, taking guys who may have been journeymen, guys who weren't as good, getting the best out of them, taking rookies and molding them into better players, type things like that. And that's a big one. That's a big one because at the end of the day, most defensive coordinators are people who used to be position coaches. So if we end up hiring another young guy who was a position coach or something like that, and usually that's going to be a promotion from within. So that's probably not going to happen. Especially if he don't have a connection to Atlanta. Like Ryan Nielsen, he was the kind of defensive coordinator. He was like splitting that duty, but he also had a direct connection to Terry Fontenot. So you poured him right over because you're like, no, I know that guy. He can handle it. But I'm not about to grab the goddamn D-line coach from who the fuck ever and say run my defense. When I don't know nothing about you. That's not how most of them gonna go. I'd still request an interview just to see sometimes, but that's one of those things. I think for me, another thing too that I would like. Now, this is preferable, and it's actually going to transfer to one of my my next things. I want a guy who has, preferably now, I would like a guy with experience. We've already gone the route of a guy with no NFL experience. Felt like that took away too much from Raheem as far as being a head coach. Let's get a guy with some experience, and since he's going to have experience, he got to have positive experience. He got to have experience coordinating good units. Experience where he was a big factor in those units being good, right? And then another thing is I would prefer that we able to get stability in that role, right? And what I mean is obviously, Dan Quinn's the head coach right now. He's moving on to the divisional round of the playoffs. He was the defensive coordinator for Dallas the year before. Raheem Morris, the head coach of the Falcons. He was the defensive coordinator for the Rams, who are also moving forward in the divisional round of the playoffs last year, right? So what happens is when your coaches are good, they get poached. They get poached. Happens all the time. But sometimes you get a guy like Steve Spagnuolo. He was the defensive coordinator for the Giants. Went on to become a head coach of the Rams. It ain't really work out. I can't remember if he was a head coach another time because I know he went back to the Giants for a while. Maybe that staff got fired and he got poached off somewhere else. Or maybe he was a head coach. I can't remember that part, but I know he was the head coach of the Rams back when they were in St. Louis back in a while back. And then he with the Chiefs. And now that the Chiefs winning, he done already tried his head coaching shit. It don't really work out. He probably just gonna camp out there and stay with the Chiefs. Ain't nobody gonna really checking for him. He ain't really checking for head coaching jobs as much. He is fine staying with the Chiefs. And now the Chiefs have a better defense every year because they get continuity. You get a coordinator that's a proven, very good defensive coach and defensive coordinator that already got a strong history of putting out good defenses, a strong history of developing defensive lines. He pretty much chilling.
Yeah, he's been there, done that. That's the one thing about Steve. He's already been a head coach.
Exactly.
He's comfortable just being a DC.
Let me tell you, bro. That's the perfect segue to one of the guys I would love to see the Falcons get would be Dennis Allen. That's a
Yeah.
guy with a proven history as a defensive coach, proven history as a D-line coach. Done been a head coach 2 times and shat the bed both of them. I don't think nobody else want him to be their head coach anymore. So if you bring in Dennis Allen and he know what the fuck he doing, you just pretty much keeping that guy in the building for as long as your head coach is in the building. And I think that's worth considering because look, let's be real now. Let's be real. Let's be real. I think one of the things Raheem need to consider when making this next defensive coordinator coaching hire is, hey, your job on the line this year. The guy you bring up, who you about to hang your hat on with your job on the line. Because see, that was the problem with the last head coach. Ain't nothing wrong with believing in Desmond Ritter. Looking at you, Arthur Smith. Ain't nothing wrong with believing in Desmond Ritter. But that's who you about to put your hat on when your job on the line?
Exactly.
You about to hit your wagon to that horse with gun to your head. Pink slip to your head.
I want Desmond Ritter. And no disrespect to the man. I love
no disrespect, but I'm like, look, I would
he's
not.
A phenomenal. Like, I always had a soft spot for him, man. I truly did root for him.
But you about to put not with Desmond Ritter. So that's the thing I want Raheem to remember when he think about who to hire. Is this next coach? Is this a guy I would put my job on the line for? Is this a guy I say I'm about to put my job in this guy's hands? And if the answer is no, don't hire him. Tell him to get to stepping.
Hey man, now that you mention it, I know it's because then you would have brought in 2 former Saints guys, and Terry Fontenot and Dennis Allen. Now, granted, Dennis makes sense because the Saints have never really had a bad defense. Granted, they had some bad games this year, but like,
I mean, this year, but like historically,
with him in New Orleans, he was decent, bro. It's a stretch. I ain't saying I want him,
bro. 2 separate stints. He was good. He left.
Yeah.
They weren't quite as good. He came back. They was good again.
That's facts.
I'm like, well, fuck, man. The proof in the pudding. He came back to the same organization.
Hey, man.
All right. So we about to go into that and have some fun. So the last thing we want to talk about before we get up out of here is obviously we got to talk about Kirk and the contract. You know, he's due a lot of money still. Terry Fontenot in the press conference last week said that he'd be comfortable keeping him as a $40 million backup. And that's a tough thing to navigate when you're being honest, because, you know, I hear a lot of people, and it's just, you know, my opinion. I hear a lot of people say you can't have a $40 million backup. And I understand, you know, why they feel that way and why they say that and why everybody's like, nah, you can't do that, you know. But at the end of the day, I'm just like, well, if he on the roster and you have to pay him anyway, right? And look, let's be real now. Let's be real. You know, Michael Penix ain't even played a 17-game season yet. He did have a stretch in college where he was hurt like every year, season-ending injury every year. You know, now he did play 2 straight seasons at Washington, so there's a good chance that could all just be behind him. But, you know, if Penix get hurt, all right, now, hey, y'all sit down now. I'm about to say preposterous, crazy shit, and I just need y'all to just sit down and get on the ride with me, baby. We just enjoying it, and I promise the ride will stop where it's supposed to stop, and you will get off safely at your destination. All right. Now, there could be a world where, you know, Penix get hurt and Kurt got to step in. Except this time, Kirk Cousins has a second year in the system. This time, Kirk Cousins is a second year removed from his Achilles injury. This time, Kirk playing better. You now have leverage if you want to move Kirk. That hey, we got this quarterback with a front loaded contract that we done already paid a couple years of. He looked real good last time because that's kind of the biggest issue we got now. That this motherfucker did not put out good tape. He did not get he did not get replaced by injury. He got replaced because of performance. That is a bad look. That's a bad look, boy. You know what I'm saying? But there's a world that exists where that kind of thing can happen. And my thing is, it's not really a high risk maneuver because you got to pay Kirk anyway.
Yeah.
If you weren't having to pay him, I would feel like you're forcing the situation, right? But you do got to pay him. That is something that has to happen, whether he's on the team or not. And then if he's not on the team, well, now you got to get a backup quarterback. And I'm here to let you guys know, and I'm looking right in the camera for this one. Backup quarterback is a serious position that needs to be considered. Backup quarterback position is what kept Green Bay in playoff contention when Jordan Love missed games. Backup quarterback position is a position that put Miami out of contention because they had a quarterback that had a long history of missing games due to concussions, and they still rolled out there with a backup quarterback, right?
Hey, I got one for you too.
That wasn't up to snuff. And where's Miami? On the couch with us, in Cabo with us. Right? And then the last couple games of the year they won because they had Snoop Huntley, but they didn't have him in the beginning. If they would have treated backup quarterback seriously, they might still be in the playoffs. Who else you had there, Cam?
Backup quarterback won the Eagles Super Bowl.
Hey, because you didn't treat backup quarterback like an optional position. You treat it like a serious position, right?
Thank you.
Because
Oh, another one, Doug Williams. Backup quarterback.
He was a backup, historically,
Backup quarterback, won a Super Bowl with the Redskins, dog. You treat the position with respect.
You treat the damn position with respect.
Hey, look what
hell, Doug Williams, he threw 4 touchdowns. He fucked around with Super Bowl MVP. Like Nick Foles to you.
Look at San Fran. Backup quarterback. Joe Montana's the starter. You know who we gonna bring in? Steve Young, backup quarterback. You got.
I thought you were talking about this year because Purdy missed some games this year.
I went all the way back, baby.
And I was like, hey, how did that work out?
Fantastic.
No, not that one. How did it work out for San Fran this year?
Oh, terribly.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. So, I'm not saying that, that's the best move or the smart move. Well, I am saying that there is logic behind keeping Kirk as a backup quarterback. Right. And I think that something that should be considered more, particularly since you have to pay him anyway. If getting rid of him meant you absolved yourself of his contract, if you can trade him, absolve yourself of that contract, yes, absolutely. Now you'll find no argument from me. But if you're just talking about cutting him and everybody already mocking what teams he's gonna go to and give them, the year of Russell Wilson or the year of Sam Darnold, what the fuck ever, I think the fuck not.
Yeah.
Not on our damn. Not when we already and his replacement already out there. Oh, yeah. All right. And anyway, what's your thoughts on that, Cam?
So let me run some numbers by you, big dog.
All right.
So Kirk Cousins has a no trade clause. He gets to say where he wants to go.
Absolutely.
We paid him a 4-year, $180 million contract, man, and $100 million of that is guaranteed.
Yes, sir.
We could cut Kirk Cousins, and if we do so before the start of the 2025 league year, which is March 12th, we would get hit with a $65 million in dead money cap hit coming from his fully guaranteed base salary of $27.5 million and $37.7 million in remaining proration per RMS roster management system. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So the biggest cap hit of all time right now is the Denver Broncos. And look, I think there was like a $86 million cap hit.
Yep.
They ate they ate an $86 million cap hit, and look where they're at now, the youngest roster in the league, and they made the playoffs. Granted, they got the ass beat, but still, they made the damn
Sure did.
playoffs. They made the playoffs with that kind of hit. So, hey, it can be done. I wouldn't want to do it like that, but it can be done. Also, there's another option. If we don't cut them till post June 1st, the dead money was spread out over 2 seasons. $40 million this year, $25 million the year after that. So that's essentially what we're looking at, man. He's owed that 65 no matter what. So we're gonna have to pay him that. So maybe we keep him. I'm not opposed to it. I agree with what you said. Take the backup quarterback position very seriously because anything can happen. I don't think Michael Penix will get hurt, but hey, he does have an injury history. He has 2 years past that where he has played fantastic, and he looked great in these 3 games. Looked mobile. I felt very confident in his mobility and his like he looked like he fit the part. So I felt confident in that. But who knows? Anything could happen. So my best guess is Terry has said that we're going to keep him to. Why would you diminish your backup quarterback? Why would you diminish the product that you own? Why would you do that? That would lower his trade stock. We're trying to raise that so we can at least get something in return for him. So that's kind of what I think Terry's coming from. Like, if we don't get an offer we want, we'll just keep him. And teams are gonna say like, well, I guess we got to give him something because they plan on keeping Kirk. But we'll see.
Right, yeah, not to mention the draft picks. I'm like, we only got 4 draft picks. We're not swimming in draft picks or anything like that. And if anybody worried about a quarterback controversy, look, let me tell you something. A quarterback controversy never happened when your quarterback playing well. All right? Like, that was kind of the whole thing with Kirk. Kirk was, everybody like, oh, worry about a quarterback controversy, worry about a quarterback controversy. Well, that mean that Kirk shit in the bed. Hey, let me ask you this. Did these pundits even remember Michael Penix Jr. was on the team when Kirk was out there swag surfing? Like, I'm like, we wasn't worried about no quarterback controversy then.
Everybody was real quiet.
You know what I'm saying?
Real quiet when we were 6-3.
I ain't talking about no quarterback controversy. But then Kirk started turning the fucking ball over like it's a bakery. And then now we got a quarterback controversy. And I'm like, well, as we should. Because that means we might have a potential in-house solution. So, obviously switching from Penix to Kirk because of performance would be a disaster PR-wise. But I'm like, hey, man, look, football ain't never been won on the paper or on an article. Football won on the field. And guys got to play and got to play well. I like, the idea of coaches being loyal to their guys and all. But a lot of, when coaches doing that with their other coaches, and, those guys not very good, like, hell, one of the criticisms of Raheem is, oh, he always picking his boys. Well, yeah, that's staying loyal that's the same thing as staying loyal to these players when they're not playing well. It's the same thing. And you don't want them to always do that. So that's all I'm getting at with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be hard-headed or go against the grain. Oh, we should keep Kirk because everybody says we should cut him. It ain't nothing like that. All right, it's just like let's like, not just write it off though because everybody say you should do that. Let's really consider what the situation is and what benefits our team the most. Don't worry about all this other media bullshit because they're gonna always tell you media ain't like a goddamn thing we done did since we drafted Penix. And hey, that working out. All right, so do your thing. All right, Cam, anything you want to add before we get up out of here?
No, I think we covered everything, big dog.
All right, awesome. Well, look, guys, I appreciate you coming out to hang out with us. So does Cam. Falcons, they look, we had a lot of fun stuff happening this weekend, so we just had to go ahead and get a little quick episode up for you guys. Really appreciate you hanging out with us, like we said. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, hit the little bell when you want to know some real niggas uploading. Peace.